Hello, lovely friend. I am Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
And this is the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast. Hello, lovely friend. Dr. Mary here, joined by my fabulous, smart, wonderful colleague, Dr. Lucy. Happy Christmas Eve. Dr. Lucy, how are you?
I'm fabulous. So fabulous. So much fun. Lots and lots of things going on for RLM, but lots and lots of things just going on in the world. And honestly, I feel great. So huzzah.
That's good. I love it. That's a beautiful mind flip. You ask most people how they are this time of year, like, busy. So I love it that you're embracing the full facet of life there.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I think like you and I are in different seasons. I've got grown-up kids. You've got little kids. So Christmas is different, different way that we look at things and things that we have to prioritize. I don't have to run out and, buy Santa dog treats or anything like that.
You don't have to be Santa's personal assistant right now.
Not at all.
Yeah, that would be quite handy.
Not at all. But again, I just think it is a busy time, but it doesn't have to be hideous. So, great. So I feel wonderful.
So good. So good. I'm excited by today's topic. It's one that we've got a few requests to talk about, and it's a big topic of understanding food noise. And what would you say food noise is, Lucy?
Well, I think the first thing is that food noise is a relatively new term. So, when I was growing up, and even in diet culture, nobody used that phrase. It wasn't a common phrase, and possibly some of you listening have never heard of it either. But the way I think of food noise is it's in your brain. So it's like intrusive sentences that are all about food. And it can range from thinking constantly, when's my next meal? What can I eat? I'm still hungry. There'll be little phrases. And for some people, they can take over and they can find it hard to concentrate. They, go to bed thinking about food, wake up thinking about food, and they kind of basically do nonstop food thinking. I think like everything in medicine, and in fact, probably everything in the world, there's a spectrum. So, some people will have mild food noise, some people have moderate, and some people have really intense food noise.
Yeah. Good. Yep. And I reckon it's important to understand that, it is complex and it's not caused by just one thing. It's not that food noise is influenced by our brain chemistry, influenced by psychological triggers, our genetic predisposition, and environmental cues. So it's got hormonal, chemical, psychological, environmental, genetic factors that contribute to how much each of us deals with food noise, and it can vary and over the course of the day, over the course of the years. And there are certainly a lot of things you can do to just help dampen it down and get more peace and less of that mental chatter. But everybody experiences it differently, and we experience it differently at different times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the one thing I'd say is that there's certainly, as you mentioned, there's things that you can do, and it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to rule your life.
No.
So I wonder, I think that one of the things that people sometimes have trouble distinguishing is what we call physiological hunger. So, you're hungry versus food noise or cravings or, desire. So again,
yes.
that sort of food noise, cravings, desire for food, they're variations. They're not exactly the same, but they're variations on a theme. And then there's actual hunger.
Yep, physiological, like physical hunger. And they are governed by different processes in our bodies. So hunger is largely hormonally influenced, and there are actually a lot of hormones that are involved in hunger, a lot of our metabolic hormones. The main ones are like ghrelin, is our hunger hormone. And when that's released, it sort of stimulates our desire to eat. We get hungry. There's our appetite increases. And then we've got lots of hormones that then control when we feel full, like cholecystokinin, peptide YY, leptin. Insulin also plays a really important role in sort of governing our overall hunger as well, and how well these hormones work and how resistant our bodies are to our satiety hormones. So it is a complex hormonal interplay that governs whether or not we're feeling physically hungry or not. And what helps to get back in control of that, of our physical hunger, is eating real food. And I feel like a broken record, but I'm going to keep saying it. You're going to keep saying it. In particular, reducing the amount of processed foods and processed carbohydrates that we eat, because those foods are designed to they override our normal hunger and satiety signals, and they also hijack our cravings and our brain reward systems. So processed foods are bad for both the psychological and the physical hunger. So, Lucy, brief summary. What do you reckon would be useful ways to get your physical hunger into a nice, normal, natural balance?
Okay, so we know at the heart of all of these hormonal imbalances is, again, insulin as the king hormone, or the queen if you're gender neutral. So the head monarch hormone is insulin, and the others all follow behind. So if we reduce insulin, and again, they don't all follow behind straight away. So again, we need some patience and time. But if we can reduce insulin first, and we do that by reducing, as you mentioned, the amount of carbohydrate in our diet, in particular processed carbs. But while we're doing that, we need to make sure we're eating enough protein, and we need to make sure we've got a bit of fat in our diet, because carbohydrate and fat are our two fuel forms. And so what I see a lot of people doing is they're already on a low fat diet for whatever reason. Again, that was the story that we're all
told to do that, definitely.
Yeah, so then they reduce their carbohydrates as well, and it's like, okay, that's 2 of the 3 macronutrients. You're really just left with protein, which, look, protein by itself is not very appealing. And also you've got no fuel source. Your body is having to sort of use protein as a fuel source, which you can do, but it's not very efficient, and and you'll be tired and hungry and you'll feel rubbish. So
yes, definitely
initially protein and some fat sources will help with this balance, physiological balance of hunger and satiety. And again, over time, there's a whole host of lifestyle measures that we talk, broken record, on and on about to improve other, particularly leptins. There's some evidence coming out now about its role in mitochondrial health in relation to circadian rhythm. So, those are really important.
Yeah. Yep. Sleep, sunlight, manage your stress, move your body. Also important as well to literally get, control back of your normal, natural hunger and satiety.
Yeah. So hunger's one thing. That's the physiological bit. That's hunger, and it's normal and natural, and you shouldn't be afraid to be hungry.
No,
okay? Because it's normal.
Nor should you be afraid to eat when you're hungry.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're hungry, you are allowed to eat. You don't have to white knuckle your way through. And interestingly, when your hormones are in balance, as we've talked about, hunger is reduced. Like it actually is, which is easy. It's great.
And so that goes such a long way to calming the psychological drivers of the food noise. When your hunger is just naturally under control, it does make all the psychological drivers more quiet, but it doesn't necessarily make them go away.
No. Maz, one of the things I'd like to talk about is there are strong proponents, both on social media and around the place, that suggest that restriction increases food noise. That if we restrict particular foods, then our brain just wants them more and more and more until we cave. And so the solution is don't restrict anything. What are your thoughts, Maz?
First of all, I have not found any evidence that this is true. Just because something is said a lot doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And I think that the devil is in the details with this. So let's, bring out again the humble Tim Tam. Say my clinical experience, both personal and with our beautiful course members, with our beautiful patients, is that when you reduce your processed carbohydrates, your desire for processed carbohydrates does go down. It really does. And then say that, then out comes a packet of Tim Tams and somebody then eats a Tim Tam, then eating one Tim Tam increases your desire for more Tim Tams. It wakes up that dopamine, the brain's reward system. We get that dopamine release, eating those sugary processed foods. It triggers those pleasure signals. Our brain's like, oh, I want more of this. And those modern processed foods are literally designed to reach this bliss point, to flood our brains with dopamine, so we'll eat more of them. The more we eat, the more these processed food companies make. So I think that a lot of those sugary, high-carb processed foods, they are designed so that we can't easily regulate them. We just want to eat more and more and more. But the amazing thing is that when you do just sort of remove those harmful foods from your life, the desire for them really does go down. And so it depends what you mean by restriction. I think you should fuel your body and you should eat nourishing food and you should eat as much nourishing food as you want. You should enjoy your meals. Food is joyous. Food is lovely. But processed foods, I don't believe that restricting processed foods really leads to any adverse outcomes at all.
No. And look, you're right. I also searched, like I was doing a literature search for restriction increasing food noise. And I wasn't able to find any. And I'm happy if somebody's got some, please send them in to me, but I would like to review them. But the theory, I think, for lots of proponents of this type of eating is that, we call it the pink elephant effect. So, when someone says you don't think of a pink elephant, of course, what pops into your mind? Pink elephant. And again, I think that if your brain is saying don't eat Tim Tams, don't eat Tim Tams, don't eat Tim Tams, well, yeah, it's going to want Tim Tams. So there's many psychological tools that we can use to reframe our thoughts around food. Simply white knuckling and saying don't have them, that's not going to work. That honestly will not work. You've probably tried that. It's not going to work. You need strategies, you need frameworks, and it is absolutely doable, but it is a skill. So I'm going to say to you that the people that say to you restricting will cause you to want it more or cause binging are probably not giving you the skills you need to stop thinking of pink elephants.
That's right. That's it. Yeah. And the term restriction really does, I think, build up a lot of negative connotations. People think that it's toxic diet culture. It's, you're not worthy unless you're thin, hunger is good. All of those toxic diet culture messages that have, but that we have been fed for a long time. But that is certainly not how we would ever approach a healthy life to get your body into a nice, beautiful balance. It's not about, restricting your food. It's about choosing nourishing foods that are both yummy and helpful and get your body into a balance, can improve your quality of life, improve your longevity. You can live a wonderful, happy life. And as a fabulous happy side effect, they also do help decrease that food noise. Restriction, I think, is a dirty word, and I would argue that choosing real food, nourishing your body with real food is not restrictive. I know that people would definitely argue with me about that if I say, processed carbohydrates are bad, then that's a restrictive diet and that's not sustainable. But I very strongly disagree with that view. You can make sweet foods if you want them. You can have your cocktails. There's lots you can do within the framework of lower carbohydrate real food.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's now, guidelines around reducing carbohydrates to manage things like type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, PCOS, all of the things that we know about. And interestingly, when the guidelines were first proposed, I remember they came out with the phrase therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. And I thought,
Mm.
oh, no, we need to change
Yes.
that language. And it's now therapeutic carbohydrate reduction,
Yep, I
because
like that.
you are reducing. You're not, it's restricting is an unhelpful phrase in many, many parts of life, but particularly around food.
Mm. I think another really useful point to discuss when we're talking about food noise is how it isn't a purely psychological thing,
No.
and we know this to be true, and it's not a sign of character flaw or weakness, or that there's something wrong with your brain if you've got more food noise than the person next to you, because of a really interesting phenomenon that we are noticing with injectable weight loss medications, the GLP-1 receptor agonists, medications such as semaglutide, which is marketed under the brands as Ozempic, Wegovy, and the other ones that are in that family.
Yeah, tirzepatide is Monjaro.
That these medications are, people are taking them, they're noticing that they're getting a reduction in their food noise, so that these medications, which essentially are hormonal intervention, these hormonal interventions have an impact on the dopamine reward pathways in our brains, and people are noticing that it really reduces their cravings, reduces their food noise, which is, I think, fascinating. I don't think you necessarily need to be on these medications because you've got food noise, but it is an extremely interesting observation that a hormonal intervention reduces food noise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it leads weight too to that restriction causes food noise debate, because honestly, people who are using these medications often are not eating very much food. So, it's not about them, that they're restricting and that's causing their food noise. In fact, the medication is stopping it. So I think you're right. It's a complex concept, the food noise or cravings or chatter. I mean, I used to call it chatter before food noise became a thing, the chatter in my brain. The thing, and so again, this is part of where at Real Life Medicine, we're not this or that. We're not saying to people, you can only manage this by, following our frameworks. We're saying there's lots of tools to use. And that honestly, people should be given the full gamut of all the tools available. So not necessarily, sorry, I'll rephrase that. People should be given the option of all the tools available and make informed choices about what is going to work for them, and be able to make those choices then without shame and judgment. Because this is the other thing I see, is that people out there, and look, I know that there's two camps in the injectable weight loss world. There's a camp where, there's lots of sort of pop-up clinics all over the place that are really, they're not part of the person's whole health journey. They're just, a prescription only service essentially. Versus people at the other end of the spectrum saying, nobody should use any of this. We should all just be able to manage it. And I mean, we're going to do an episode more on this in the next couple of weeks. But really, I just want people to know that there is no right or wrong. There is no this and that. Medications are powerful. The dose in which you need them, again, Real Life Medicine, we believe the lowest effective dose is the best dose for the person. And the reason for that, one, it's cheaper for you. It's always good. Two, less side effects, less other drug interactions, less long-term effects from particularly those long-term side effects at lower doses. So the way to have lowest dose is to really be looking then at the biological and psychological strategies that you can do to reduce food noise.
That's right. And lovely Lucy, we have a masterclass coming up where we are going to talk about just this, like a complimentary masterclass. We're going to dive into this exact topic.
Yes, absolutely. It's called, and again, I may change the name because it's currently called 3 Strategies to Overcome Sugar Cravings. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, I've had a few people email saying, sugar's not my problem, it's chips. Yeah. Again, it's now kind of 3 strategies to overcome sugar in brackets and carb cravings.
Yep.
But yeah, you can check that out. It's on our website, but it's also rlmedicine.com/cravings. If you're driving, don't stop. Don't try and look it up now. All the notes, all the links will be in the show notes, of course. And next week, I mean, we've got so much exciting things. I'm so excited about it. Next week, we're actually going to talk about our new telehealth clinic that we're opening. So this, again, as part of a holistic service that works with your doctor, with lifestyle medicine as the foundation, and really with the aim of either deprescribing or prescribing medications in a holistic form. That's basically going to be the aim of our clinic, but we'll tell you more about that next week.
Exciting.
I know. If you want to go on the wait list for when we open, again, I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's rlmedicine.com/clinic. Nice name. To hear when our opening dates are.
Fabulous. All right, wonderful people.
Okay, so I just want to finish again. If you have food noise, it's not your fault. It's not you're hopeless. You're not weak. You're not, your brain's not disordered or anything like that. It's just looking. And again, at the very, very core of food noise, it's a survival mechanism where humans were designed to look and forage and be excited by food. Because without food, we died. And that's not good for the human race. So right. This is really just a part of our survival instincts that are just a little bit on hyperdrive.
Yep. And there are ways to calm it back down and get it into a nicer, lovely, more peaceful balance.
Yeah, manageable. That's what we want, manageable. Good.
All right, bye-bye, lovely ones.
Bye, lovelies. Talk to you next week. The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.